All right, good morning, everyone. I'm Judge Jackie Powell. This is First Appearance Court. Today I will let you know if I've determined probable cause, and then we will talk about release conditions. Today is not your trial date. It's not an adversarial hearing. And so because of that, I encourage folks to please speak with your attorney before speaking on the record, because everything in this courtroom is being recorded and can be used against you at a later time. For those of you who are represented by the attorneys from the Public Defender's Office, I do have in the courtroom with me this morning, Mr. Adam Goldberg, and over at the main jail, Mr. Hector Romero. And these attorneys are available to those folks who are at the other facilities also by phone. For those of you who are represented by private counsel, your attorney will come to the courtroom and address your case from here. If your attorney is not here, you can let me know, and we will attempt to get in touch with your attorney. But please don't tell us that you have private counsel unless you or your family members have retained this attorney for this recent arrest. Because an attorney is representing you probably on a pending matter, or because they may have represented you in the past, does not automatically mean that they are representing you on a new case. And I say that every morning because there's been many times when persons tell me they have private counsel, and then when I call the attorney, they tell me that they are not representing them. So I just want you to be aware of that. Also in the courtroom, I have the attorney from the State Attorney's Office, Mr. Eric Linder, as well as we have representatives from confinement status, pretrial supervision, and the clerk of courts. And all these persons are here to help with the morning's hearing. They can provide additional information if needed, and so you need to be aware of that. After today, your case will be assigned to a specific division judge. And then moving forward, any pretrial motions that you may have, if you end up going to trial, those will be heard by that judge. I may see some of you again after today for other hearings, which would be prior to the state filing the information, but for the most part, you will be going before your division judge. Some of you this morning may be able to resolve your case. If it is a misdemeanor matter or if it's a municipal ordinance matter, those are possibly, you are able to resolve those at first appearance. And I say possibly because that's also depending on what's going on with you personally. All right? All right, there are a few persons that the jail has asked me to call out of turn, so I'll call those persons first, and then we will go to the sign-ins. So Gary Stoltz,
Mr. Schultz, come
on
on up,
page
please.
6.
He's approaching, Judge.
All right, Mr. Stoltz, you're before the court this morning. You have 5 misdemeanor capuses, and paperwork is turned upside down. They're all petty thefts. So I find probable cause. The judge who issued the capias left bonds in place at $250. Charge number 5, it looks like you've been ROR'd. You have a status hearing tomorrow before your division judge, and so I'm going to leave the bonds in place, okay?
Judge, one request. My understanding, Mr. Stoltz, in speaking to him at the time he was homeless, approximately 3 weeks ago, he managed to obtain certain benefits, and now he's living in a facility in Fort Lauderdale through Archways. He has a case manager. Now that he has a place to reside, he can make sure he gets his proper notice. He's asking if the court would consider releasing him on pretrial release.
I'm going to deny that at this time. He does have a status hearing tomorrow before his division judge.
I understand. Would you sign a phone order, Judge?
Sure.
Thank you.
Bethel Esteni on page 10.
He's approaching, Judge. Come on up, Mr. Esteni.
Mr. Esteni is before the court. Charge 1, battery on an officer or firefighter. Number 2, disorderly conduct. Number 3, resisting officer with violence. And I find probable cause. Does anyone wish to be heard?
Your Honor, for the record, the defendant, it looks like, Josh Pados for the state, Your Honor. And for the record, the defendant looks like he just in, he had a 2009 home invasion robbery and a grand theft, sentenced to 10 years prison. The state would be requesting in count one, a $2,500 bond, count two, a $500 bond, and count three, a $1,000 bond.
Judge, under circumstances, that's reasonable. We're only going to be requesting a photo order as well.
All right, so a $2,500 bond on one. I'll leave number two at the $25, and number three is a $1,000 bond. And I will sign that order, okay? Ridge Moss on page 11.
He is approaching, Judge. Come on up, sir.
All right, Mr. Moss is before the court. Charge one is battery on officer or firefighter. Number two, resisting officer with violence. Number three, resisting officer without violence. Number four, exposing sex organs in public. Number five, loitering or prowling. I find probable cause for all these charges.
Your Honor, the state would be requesting a $2,500 bond on count one and a $1,000 bond on count two, and have the other bonds stay left in place. For the record, the defendant pled out January of this year, resisting without violence and unlawful use of false name.
Okay?
Judge, Mr. Moss isn't quite going to be able to afford to post that monetary bond. He's been living in our community his whole entire life. He's 26 years old. He works for a company called South Broward Landscaping. He's been working for them for the past 2 years. When weather permits, he gets paid about $120 a day. He lives locally here in Tamarack, where him and his fiance have been renting an apartment for him, his fiance, and their 2 children, ages 3 and 8. Now, she is working, but unfortunately, with the holidays, my understanding, Mr. Moss, their financial resources are quite limited. What I was going to be asking is, we're okay on count two, the $1,000 bond. We're going to ask the court to consider a $1,000 bond on count one. So that would be a $2,000, and on the misdemeanor offenses, we're going to see if the court would consider an ROR on Mr. Moss's behalf, and a photo order as well.
All right, I'll sign that photo order. Based on the nature of these allegations, I find that reasonable bonds are charge one, $2,500, number two, $1,000. The other bonds will remain in place. No return to this location, no victim contact. Alexander Del Toro on page
Mr.
11.
Del Toro, he's approaching, Judge.
All right, Mr. Del Toro this morning is before the court on one charge of manslaughter, and then number two is carrying a concealed firearm. I find probable cause for these charges. We'll hear from the parties at this time.
Yes, Your Honor, I do not see any criminal history for Mr. Del Toro. That being said, based on the level of violence, the use of a firearm, the reckless nature in which the firearm was used and discharged and ultimately led to his mother's death, I'm going to be requesting a $100,000 bond on count one.
Went off by itself. Mr. Romero, what's going on?
Huh?
Get to start
The system
over.
went off.
Okay. All right, well,
I guess maybe you want to start over, Your
All right, so Mr. Del Toro is before the court on one charge of manslaughter. Number two is carrying a concealed firearm, and I find probable cause.
Your Honor, I checked Mr. Del Toro's history. He has no criminal history. Based on the level of violence, the alleged use of a firearm that was discharged, ultimately causing the death of his mother, I'm going to be requesting a $100,000 bond on count one. No contact with the listed witness, Alexander Del Toro Sr. Pretrial release of the GPS monitor. No possession of any firearms, weapons, or ammunition. Nothing further, Your Honor.
Judge, Mr. Del Toro advised me, unfortunately, there's no way he's gonna be able to afford to post that. He's working, but he's been, he works at ExxonMobil. He's a gas attendant, been there for 2 years. He's only making $11 an hour, as the state did confirm this is first contact with the system. He's a registered voter. From what he advised me, he has no money, bank, no property, and I see you take that into consideration to determine reasonable release conditions.
So in this case, the allegations in this case are, there's no word for it. Mr. Del Toro is in a argument with his parents and brings a gun to the argument. And we're here today because now his mother is deceased. Based on these allegations, I am going to impose a $100,000 bond on charge number one. Number two, he has a $1,000 bond. If he posts his bond, he will be on a level 2 pretrial supervision. And he must surrender any weapons or firearms that he has. No contact with the witness in this case. No contact, Mr. Del Toro, means no phone calls, no text messages, no social media, no third-party contact. Do you understand that, sir? All right, thank you. On page 12, Michael Garnett.
Mr. Garnett? Garnett?
Mr. Garnett is before the court. Charge one is robbery, no firearm or weapon. And I find probable cause. Okay?
Your Honor, if Mr. Romero wants to proceed, we're just pulling up his.
Judge, Mr. Garnett, unfortunately, he's financially indigent. He's homeless. He gets disability, approximately $700 per month, but from what he informed me, he has no one in contact to help post him a monetary bond. Has no money, bank loans, no property, so I'm asking you to take that into consideration.
Your Honor, the state would be asking for a $7,500 bond and no return order based on the fact that the defendant has been convicted of violating an injunction last year. He's threatened the defendant with violence, or he's threatened the victim in this case with violence in the past. He has gone to mental health court. He's been Baker acted numerous times. That is all, Judge.
All right, $7,500 bond. No victim contact, no return to this location. All right, um. All right, let's go to the attorneys who signed in, or the persons who signed in. Yes, I'm sorry. All right, the first one I have is on page 9, Jonathan Speranza. Sure. Good morning. We're gonna be off the record? Mr. Speranza, you're before the court this morning on one charge of burglary with assault or battery. I find probable cause this morning, and I'll set the bond at $20,000. I'm also ordering no victim contact. And sir, I'm sure your attorneys will explain that to you, but I'll just let you know on the record, no phone calls, no text messages, no social media, no third-party contact. Do you understand that, sir? All right, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Judge. Have a good day, Your Honor.
You too. All right. Keontae Rosier. Oh, I do see the Spanish interpreter. On page 12, I'll call your next. Keontae Rosier.
Here, Judge. Your private counsel should be there.
Actually, his family, does he have a private attorney?
Oh, I didn't,
Somebody signed in.
I think I believe this is the alleged victim, Your Honor.
Okay. All right, Mr. Romero, have you already had an opportunity to speak with him?
not yet, Judge.
All right, then I'll recall the case once you have that opportunity. Ma'am, we'll have to recall the case. He needs to speak with his attorney. All right, who needed a Spanish interpreter?
Judge, good morning. We have 3 defendants in the main jail. On page 7, Eric Mazariegos Perez. On page 8, Samuel David, I'm sorry, that's Raul Salas Domingo. And on page 9, Jose Cartagena.
What was the second one? Gonzalo
Raul Salas Domingo
Domingo,
on the
okay.
bottom of page 8.
And then,
Who's before that?
and then the third one was who?
Jose Cartagena on
Okay.
page 9.
So we have 3, Mr. Eric Mazariegos Perez, and then Raul Domingo, and then Jose Cartagena. All right.
First case, I think.
Eric Mazariegos Perez. Mr. Perez, you are before the court this morning. Charge 1 is DUI, alcohol or drugs. Number 2, DUI with a breath level greater than .15. And number 3, operating without a valid driver's license.
Señor Mazariegos está aquí. Conducir bajo la influencia con un nivel de alcohol en el aliento de .15 y el tercer cargo es operar sin licencia válida.
I find probable cause for these charges.
Dictamino que existe motivo fundado para estos cargos.
Judge, I'm just gonna be requesting a phone order.
Simplemente, señora jueza, voy a estar peticionando una orden judicial para que el señor pueda tener
All right.
acceso a su teléfono.
It was phone order, not photo order, did you say?
Phone, telephone.
Phone?
Teléfono, no foto, teléfono.
All right, so he has a total of $1,500 in bond, and I'll sign that order.
Y tiene un total de fianza de $1,500 y firmaré esa orden para el acceso al teléfono.
All right, then Raul Domingo.
Señor Domingo. Señor Domingo. Ven, por favor. He's approaching, Judge.
He's the right name, but he was recently believed he actually might have possessed a gun.
Mr. Domingo is before the court on one charge of DUI, alcohol, or drugs, and I find probable cause.
El señor Domingo está en el tribunal por un cargo de manejar bajo la influencia, alcohol o drogas y dictamino que existe motivo fundado.
Judge, at this time, nothing to request. I'm gonna be contacting his brother for some monetary bond.
En este momento nada para peticionar a su señoría, voy a estar contactando a su hermano para que él pueda pagar la fianza.
All right, he has a $500 bond.
Fianza de $500.
Jose Cartagena.
Mr. Cartagena? Ven, por favor. He's here, Judge.
Mr. Cartagena is before the court on one charge of aggravated battery causing bodily harm.
El señor Cartagena está ante el tribunal por un cargo de lesiones agravadas causando lesiones corporales.
And I find probable cause.
Decreto que existe motivo fundado.
Sure.
Un momento, señoría.
Judge, my understanding is being Mr. Cartagena, this is his first time being arrested in his life.
Okay.
Según haber hablado con el señor Cartagena, su señoría, esta es la primera vez que el señor Cartagena haya sido arrestado en toda su vida.
Judge, he's been living in South Florida now for 18 years.
Su señoría está viviendo en el sur de la Florida 18 años, él tiene 40 años de edad.
He does work, he's been working for the same painting company for 5 years.
Él sí trabaja, ha estado trabajando para la misma compañía que pinta por 5 años.
His wages fluctuate, but on a good week, he can get paid around $900 a week.
Su ingreso fluctúa, pero en una buena semana puede ser pagado $900 por semana.
Now, he lives here locally in Pompano Beach, where he's been renting a room for the past year, and his monthly rent is $500.
Y él ha estado viviendo aquí en Pómpano, nuestra área, ha estado viviendo allí por un año, alquila una habitación que le cuesta $500 al mes.
Judge, unfortunately, at this time, from what he advised me, he has no one in contact when he was renting. He didn't get the opportunity to bring his phone, so he has no phone numbers memorized.
Su señora lo que me acaba de informar que no tiene nadie para contactar y que cuando fue arrestado no perdió contacto con su teléfono, así que no tiene acceso a su teléfono para llamar a las personas que él conoce.
Now, I did advise him today. He was a little bit iffy as far as what procedurally happens today. I told him today is not his trial date.
Sí le informé que hoy, de acuerdo al proceso judicial en el cual nos encontramos en este momento, hoy no es el día de juicio.
But he is looking forward to contesting these allegations and having his day in court.
Pero sí está esperanzado en disputar estas alegaciones y celebrar su día en juicio.
Judge, if the state can confirm he has no prior contact, and because he has no one to contact to post a monetary bond, I'm going to be requesting a level 2 pretrial notice.
Su señoría, si la fiscalía puede confirmar que él no tiene antecedentes penales y sabiendo que él no tiene nadie que él pueda contactar, estaría peticionando que reciba libertad provisional nivel 2.
Your Honor, before we go into any recommendations,
Su señoría, antes de que ingresemos a cualquier tipo de recomendación,
we really can't confirm anything with, as far as his past with great confidence.
realmente no podemos confirmar nada con respecto a sus antecedentes con gran confianza de parte nuestra.
There's very limited information,
Hay información muy limitada.
no social security number.
No tenemos número de seguridad social.
And as you can see, according to the booking sheet,
Y como puede ver, de acuerdo a la entrada en la cárcel, un alias
there's been at least one alias used in the past, Jose Hernandez.
ha sido por lo menos usado una vez en el pasado, un alias José Hernández.
Now, I believe Mr. Padowitz will have a recommendation from the state, Your Honor.
Y creo que el señor Parwes va a tener una recomendación de parte de la Fiscalía, su señoría.
The state would be asking for a $10,000 bond, no victim contact, and to require the defendant to surrender any weapons in his possession.
La Fiscalía está peticionando para una fianza de $10,000, no tener ningún tipo de contacto con la víctima y tendría que estar renunciando o entregando cualquier tipo de armas en su posesión.
Based on the allegations that I have before me, which is very limited, and it looks like the information that was provided by the defendant himself.
Basada en las alegaciones que tengo, que son muy limitadas y de acuerdo al informe que tengo que ha sido proveído por el imputado mismo,
I literally have 4 lines of probable cause affidavit.
literalmente tengo 4 líneas de atestado policial.
And it says that the officer made contact with the defendant who advised he was involved in a fight with the victim.
Y dice que el oficial hizo contacto con el imputado y él mismo informó que se había encontrado en una pelea o había estado en una pelea con la víctima.
And I'm assuming that it is the defendant that told the officer that he cut the victim on the right side of the face with a knife.
Y asumo que es el mismo imputado que le dijo al oficial que él cortó a la víctima del lado derecho de su cara con un cuchillo.
Your Honor,
Yes,
the one thing I would note,
yes.
Su señoría, la cosa que sí notaría,
well, obviously, I couldn't possibly tell the court what the alleged victim advised the deputy of.
obviamente no le podría decir al tribunal qué es lo que la alegada víctima le informó al oficial.
I think it can be said, and there's reasonable evidence that there was communication between the victim and the deputy.
Creo que se podría decir y que hay evidencia a ello, que hubo comunicación entre la víctima y el oficial.
The deputy did provide his name, address, and phone number.
El oficial sí presentó, sí inscribió el nombre y la dirección de la víctima.
All right, so based on no priors
Basado en que no hay antecedentes
and the information that has been presented to me today,
y el informe acusatorio que se me ha presentado a mí hoy,
I will impose a $2,500 bond
voy a imponer una fianza de $2.500
and order no victim contact.
y ordenar que no tenga contacto con la víctima.
No victim contact, Mr. Cartagena, means no phone calls, no text messages, no social media.
Señora Cartagena, no tener contacto con la víctima significa no tener contacto telefónico, no tener contacto por mensajes de textos, no tener contacto por medios sociales.
And state, you indicated that he possibly has used an alias, is that correct?
Y la fiscalía ha indicado que posiblemente él haya usado un alias. ¿Es eso correcto?
It's listed on the booking sheet, Your Honor, and that's what I was referring to.
Is there any priors that is linked with that alias?
Ese alias aparece en la hoja de fichaje de la policía y la jueza preguntó si hay algún antecedente relacionado con ese nombre.
It would be very difficult to determine that.
Francamente, señora, sería muy difícil determinar eso.
It's a very common name, and with no social security number, I have limited information.
Es un nombre muy común y sin número de seguridad social es muy limitada la información que se puede conseguir.
All right, I'll leave the bond at $2,500, no victim contact.
Dejo la
No
fianza en
weapons or firearms.
no dejo la fianza en 2.500, no tenga contacto con la víctima y entregue cualquier arma de fuego o arma.
All right? Is there anyone else who needs a Spanish interpreter?
¿Alguien más? ¿Intérprete español?
Nobody else, Judge.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome, man. Have a good day.
All right, Mr. Plant, on page 1, Lina Maria Garcia.
She's approaching, Your Honor.
All right, Ms. Garcia, you are before the court this morning. You have 3 municipal ordinance violations. I find probable cause for these charges.
But she indicated to us, she told us she, well, 20
I
minutes.
decided to save it.
All right, she wants to resolve now.
She wants,
She changed her mind.
did you tell her what the offer was?
She had told me she did not want to resolve, but now if she does, the offer will be adjudicate, time served on all 3.
I would like to fight it, but I'm just still in recovery from my neck surgery 3 months ago.
So-
But
so
that's
you-
the reason
so she
that I
does
changed
not wanna
my
resolve.
mind, and I decided-
Now
no,
she
I
changed
decided
again.
To say that. No, I decided to say that.
All right, ma'am, you told me 2 things here this morning. I find probable cause, I am going to leave the bonds in place. You have a total of $225 in bond.
We'll see you in court, ma'am.
All right?
Thank you, Judge.
Yes. All right. Mr. Romero, are you up to, what page are you up to over there? Because I have someone, well, I'm waiting on your person on page 12, and then I have someone on 13.
I'm ready to proceed on the gentleman, on Mr. Rozier.
Okay,
Brought in, but I haven't spoken to everybody, Judge.
Oh.
So we're ready to proceed on Mr. Rozier.
okay, so, what's the status with, Joshua Lindell Rowe? Have you spoken to him?
He's here present, Judge, and I need to have a moment to speak to him.
Okay, all right, so we can address Mr. Rozier, and someone is signed in on Mr. Rowe, just so you know. All right. So Mr. Rozier is before the court on 1 charge of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon without intent to kill. Number 2 is possession of weapon or ammo by a convicted Florida felon. Number 3 is resisting officer without violence. Number 4 is a felony violation of probation, which has a no bond hold. There's a detainer for Okeechobee County, all right? And so he will have to go to Okeechobee to deal with that issue. There's nothing that I can do about that no bond hold from another county. I find probable cause for these charges. and I'll hear from the parties.
Your Honor, I don't know if you want to inquire of the alleged victim who is present. My understanding is she is in fear, but I don't want to speak for her. I believe she's here to address the court.
All right, good morning, ma'am. All right, so you're the alleged victim in this matter?
Yes, ma'am.
Is there something that you wish to say on the record today?
Yes, I will.
Okay, just answer that question.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And just so you know that I also need to let you know, your interests are represented by the state, but you don't have a private attorney with you. Everything in this courtroom is being recorded and also with you can be used against you at a later time. Do you understand that? All right. With that, information, do you still wish to speak on the record? Okay, then I am going to put you under oath. I'm gonna ask you to raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, then I need you to state your name in the, for the record, but please speak in the microphone so that it'll be clear.
My name is Eugenia Mae Francis Chatfield.
Okay, Ms. Chatfield, what is it that you wish to let me know this morning?
With the victim, I'm very afraid because with what happened that night, and I wish no contact because he having third party still continue to contact me. It was an incident happened on yesterday that I got another police report that another with the same similar what happened what he did the alleged people that he sent third party they came yesterday and did the same thing that he did and I
All
want
right,
him no contact.
I just want to be able to understand, are you saying that there are people that are contacting you on behalf of, on Mr. Rozier's
Yes,
behalf?
yes,
Okay, and you don't want any contact with those
no
persons?
contact
And
with
the
my
most
family.
recent time that you had that contact was when? When did someone call you? When was the last time?
They came to the house. It was yesterday morning.
Okay.
I got the new police report.
Okay,
It was like 11, I would say 11, by 11 o'clock they came, but the police
are
arrived
we
to my
talking about AM or PM?
AM.
Okay.
It was around that time between like, I say 10:45, 11, 11 o'clock that the incident happened and like 11:30 that the incident happened between, but the police was called 11:53. They arrived to the house like, within seconds
Okay,
that the incident happened, and it was I have witness as my kids and my grandkids that was there.
okay. All right, is there anything else you wish to say?
Yes, if he get a bond, please let it be a screaming high, and he have a ammo on his leg.
Have you, had prior incidents with, him before?
No, he's my cousin. He's my cousin. No, I never had incident with him.
No incidents of violence before?
He have incident with violence, but not me between me and him.
Okay. All right, ma'am, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
State?
Your Honor, I'm going to be requesting a $15,000 bond on one, a $5,000 bond on two. This report includes allegations of threats of violence with a firearm, threat to kill. Your Honor, I can also advise you he has a very lengthy juvenile history. He's been adjudicated delinquent on felony matters multiple times. I see that he was previously had a pickup order issued for violating home detention. He has had secure detention ordered multiple times. In 2017, I see he was committed to a maximum risk residential facility. And obviously, Your Honor, we'd also say we're requesting a GPS monitor, no victim contact, no possession of any firearms or weapons, ammunition until further order of the court.
Judge, obviously, from what the victim said, I believe her most important request is no contact Mr. Rozier. Advise me he will be abiding by the court order as far as, hold on, and have no contact with the alleged victim. Now, he's 20 years old, been here his whole entire life, and right now, from what he advises, he's not working. He has no sort of money to make, no property. There's no way he's going to be able to afford what the state is asking for. Post such a high bond, so I'm asking you, release Mr. Rozier on reasonable
I'm noting that the case that he's on hold for in Okeechobee is also a charge, battery by a detainee that he's on probation for. So it's another charge of violence. I find probable cause, and I am going to impose $15,000 bond on one, $5,000 bond on two. I'm ordering no victim contact. That means no phone calls, no text messages, no third-party contact, no social media contact. And also, if Mr. Rosier is able to post his bond, he'll be on a level 2 pretrial supervision, no weapons or firearms. And if he has any and he's been released, he needs to surrender those before his release. All right? All right, Tiffany Sowers.
Judge, the next three defendants are all medical resets from North Broward.
Okay.
That's on page 2, Tiffany Sowers and DeSalis Vicarini.
Okay,
And on page 3, Luna Hernandez.
so Tiffany Sowers is a medical reset.
Yes, Your Honor.
DeSalis Vicarini is a medical reset. Luna Hernandez, a medical reset. Okay? Thank you. Ashley Freeman.
Ms. Freeman, come on up, please. She's approaching, Judge.
All right, Ms. Freeman is before the court. Charge 1 is disorderly conduct. Number 2 is resisting officer with violence. I find probable cause for these charges. Does Ms. Freeman have any priors?
Judge, my understanding, this is the first time she's been arrested.
Okay,
She's a registered voter here in Broward County. She's a graduate of Plantation High School, class of 2012. She's been here her whole entire life. She works for a small, I believe it's like supermarket Polars, where she's a pharmacy technician. She just got the job 3 months ago, making about $15 an hour. She lives in Fort Lauderdale with her mother and 3 siblings. Judge, if the state can confirm that she has no prior contact, I'm going to be asking for the court to consider releasing her on ROR. If not, I'm going to be requesting $1,000 bond on count 2.
I mean, Your Honor, I wasn't going to insist upon monetary bond. I was gonna, if Mr. Romero was gonna seek pretrial, I would have been fine with that, so.
all right, I'll RR Ms. Freeman to standard pretrial supervision.
Judge,
Yes,
respectfully, and speaking, Ms. Freeman, if the court's not inclined to a straight ROR, we're going to be asking for $1,000 bond.
Frankly, Judge, and I wouldn't object if the court would want to impose a $500 bond. I mean, I was fine with pretrial.
all right, she has $1,000 bonds, number 2. Okay. Idella Brady.
No problem, John. Good morning. No problem.
Good morning. Ms. Brady is before the court on grand theft, and I find probable cause.
Your Honor,
Yes.
currently on pretrial in case number 1701-4280 CF Tene for grand theft in the 3rd degree. The trial is asking that you recall for pretrial.
When was she placed on pretrial? It's a 2017 case.
It's,
What division is it in?
It's out of Judge Porth's division.
Okay. What is, does she have a court date scheduled in Judge Porth? Is it Judge Porth's regular division?
No, Your Honor.
No? All right. So,
I'm sorry, Your Honor. Judge, it looks like the release that she's on is pretrial, but it's conditional release,
it's both.
right? As she's been found to be incompetent to proceed, so I'd ask you not to revoke her pretrial
I'll
on
take
that
no
case.
action on the pretrial, I believe she'll be before the shortly. And on the grand theft, the new grand theft charge, I'll leave the $1,000 bond in place.
Judge, would the court consider running her pretrial on this one as well, to go with the pretrial that she's on
No,
17
only because I don't know what's going on, so at least, she'll have an opportunity to see Judge Porth for him to make, I think he'll be in a better position to make that evaluation. All right?
Judge, would the court consider lowering the bond to $500 on this case instead of 1,000?
Let's leave it at 1,000.
Thank
okay.
you, Judge.
All right, Jessica Landa?
And Judge, whenever the court's ready, we're ready on Mr. Joshua Rowe.
All right, Ms. Landa is before the court. There are 2 out-of-state felony holds. And so it looks like you have to appear in Kentucky and Arkansas. They are out of state, so you will have to go before the extradition court on these charges, okay? I find probable cause. Andre Walker.
Mr. Walker, come on up, please.
Mr. Walker is before the court on 1 charge of aggravated battery. Offender knew or should have known that the victim is pregnant. Number 2 is a civil writ with a purge amount of $300. That's not for magistrate. I find probable cause.
Your Honor, one moment.
Yes.
The state would be requesting a, I'm sorry, one moment. That's why. Okay. I'm showing that Mr. Walker has 2 pending felonies. One is for dealing in stolen property, the other is for false ownership info on a pawn item. He has a second, and that's a 2018 case. He has an open 2017 burglary of a conveyance. I'm also showing in 2016, he was arrested for domestic violence battery by strangulation, child abuse and misdemeanor battery. Charges were dropped. Those allegations were against a different alleged victim. I'm going to be requesting a $5,000 bond and no victim contact.
Judge, unfortunately, Mr. Walker advised me that no one in his family is going to be able to afford to post his monetary bond. Now, he's been here his whole life. He's 25 years old. Right now, he's currently looking for employment. My understanding is he lives with his father. Right now, his father gets Social Security. He's going back and forth to the hospital. He has his own health issues, and he relies on Andre to help take care of him. Now, I haven't had an opportunity to review the PC affidavit, but Mr. Walker advised me that he's contesting these allegations, Judge. But right now, financially, there's no one that can afford to post his monetary bond. We're going to be asking the court to consider releasing him ROR to pretrial on count 1, Judge.
Right, he's gonna have a $3,500 bond on one, $3,500 bond on one. No victim contact, that means no phone calls, no text messages, no social media, no third-party contact. Do you understand that, sir?
Yeah, but she keep coming tomorrow. Do you understand that? Yes.
Okay. All right, um. Deputy, Ed? There's, someone who signed in on Joshua Rowe. It's- Oh, okay. Is, did he indicate he's coming back? Okay. All right, on page 13, we had Joshua Rowe. Were you ready with him?
Yes, Judge. Thank you for giving me that time.
All right, someone had signed in, for, it says family, but that person left saying that they had to go to another courtroom. So, Mr. Rose before the court on one charge of burglary for dwelling or structure or conveyance. Number 2 is carrying a concealed firearm, and number 3 is a traffic KPS, and I find probable cause for these charges.
Your Honor, the state would be asking court to make a finding of proof evident, presumption great, and order the defendant held at no bond for count one.
All right, yes,
I'm sorry, could I be heard on that?
sure.
Your Honor, I would agree that there's probable cause for this. However, I would object to the court's finding of proof evident on count one and holding the defendant without bond. The basis for that objection is sufficiency of evidence. There's nobody that observes Mr. Rowe inside of the vehicle, armed at the time of the alleged offense. At the time of his arrest, he's allegedly in possession of some firearms, but I don't believe that they were taken from the vehicle. And again, there's nobody that has seized him with it. Certainly possible that he did not have them in his actual possession at the time that he was allegedly inside the victim's vehicle. And because of that, Judge, I don't think that the evidence rises to that of proof evident to detain him without bond.
And, Your Honor, I think that's why it's relevant, noting that he was caught close in time to the burglary. Law enforcement was still conducting a bolo, Your Honor. He's in the vicinity of the area. When he's confronted by law enforcement, he points that he's coming from the area where the burglary occurred, and he's still in possession of stolen items that were taken from the vehicle.
Well, there's a paragraph that says that the victim positively identified Rowe as the individual he observed inside of his vehicle. Later on, it says upon being interrupted by the victim, Rowe fled the area and was then located and detained. So there is
Yes, Judge,
information that they saw
I'm sorry.
him in the car.
Yeah, I'm not disputing the probable cause for the burglary. What I'm disputing is the armed aspect of the burglary, which would rise this to a PBL. And so I do believe that the state has shown probable cause for these offenses, certainly for the second charge, again, because he's allegedly observed by the police in possession of the firearms. But they were not taken from the vehicle and nobody sees him. Even I think that the witnesses' statements will help the defense in this cause, because the defendant, the victim does not say, "I saw him inside of the vehicle with the firearms."
Your Honor, that's what I'm saying. If we were further removed in time, if we were further removed in distance, then I think the defense's objection would carry more weight and that it is certainly more reasonable that he could have armed himself in between the time of the burglary and when he was apprehended. But since he's so close in time and he's still in possession of the stolen property from the vehicle, pointing to the area he was coming from where the burglary occurred, I think there is sufficient evidence.
So finding probable cause based on the information, I am going to grant a preliminary proof evident presumption grade without prejudice for Mr. Rowe to have a bond hearing before his division judge. He'll be held no bond until such time the other bonds will remain in place.
Thank you, Judge. That would be over defense objection.
Thank you. Christopher Michelle,
Come on up, Mr. Michelle, come on. Please approach the judge.
Mr. Michelle is before the court on one charge of aggravated battery causing bodily harm. It's domestic. I find probable cause. Does Mr. Michelle have any priors?
Checking that right now, Your Honor. I'm showing alerting and prowling from last year that was pled out in August of this year. Criminal mischief, resisting without violence, 2017. Resisting without violence, 2015. Your Honor, I'm going to be requesting a $10,000 bond, no victim contact, pretrial release of the GPS monitor. It's based on the alleged use of a weapon in this matter, threat that was made to the alleged victim against the child that she's carrying. And I would also note that there is an anonymous independent witness that verified this incident was the original complainant. And who was able to describe the acts of violence against the victim.
Okay.
Judge, Mr. Michelle advised me he's financially indigent. At this time, he's not working. He's been residing here for the past 20 years. He's 23 years old. Unfortunately, he does not know anyone that can afford to post his monetary bond. So I'm asking you to take that into consideration.
I am going to impose a $10,000 bond. No victim contact. That means no phone calls, no text messages, no social media, no third-party contact. Do you understand that, Mr. Michelle?
Understood.
No weapons or firearms, and if you have any firearms, you need to surrender those before being released. Okay? Charlene Lavoy.
No problem.
Mr. Lavoy is before the court. Charge 1 is prevent or hindering firefighter or equipment. Number 2 is a violation of felony probation, which has a no bond hold for Judge Allspector, and you do have court tomorrow with Judge Allspector at 8:30 a.m. I find probable cause. You have a $2,500 bond on 1. I will leave that in place. Okay. Thomas Andrews.
No problem. Good morning.
Good morning. All right, you are before the court this morning. Charge 1 is DUI, alcohol or drugs. Number 2, DUI with a breath level greater than .15. Number 3, disobeying or avoiding a traffic device, which is a traffic infraction not for magistrate. I find probable cause.
Judge, I spoke with Mr. Andrews, and he's going to self-bond.
All right. And so Mr. Andrews has a total of $1,500 in bond. Okay. Kashiv Brady.
Judge, he's also up in North Broward, and he's advised he'd like to resolve this case today if possible.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, Mr. Brady's before the court on a misdemeanor capias. He did not show up for arraignment on October 14th on a charge of loitering or prowling. Does the state have an offer?
Yes, Your Honor, the documented offers of withholding court costs.
All right, so Mr. Brady, if you wish to resolve your case today, you will be sentenced to a withhold adjudication, which means no conviction on your record, and you have to pay court costs. Do you wish to accept that to resolve your case today?
Yes, how much should it be?
Was it how much is the court cost on this? $293.
That's my
I'll give you 6 months to pay the court costs.
So I get released?
You would be released if there's nothing else holding you in custody, yes.
Yes, ma'am, thank you.
Oh, you're not done yet. We have to take a plea. I just wanted to know if that's acceptable to you. Then please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, you can put your hand down. Do you understand everything we've discussed here today?
Yes, ma'am.
Is anyone forcing you to resolve your case?
No, ma'am.
Are you under the influence of drugs or alcohol?
No, ma'am.
Do you need any more time to speak with your attorney?
Did I said the right thing, right? I raised my hand for the right reason, right, attorney?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, yes, I'm okay.
So you don't need to talk to your attorney anymore?
No, ma'am.
Thanks. Do you understand that you have the right to go to trial, but by taking a plea today, you are giving up that right?
I'm okay. So I'm okay if I say no, right?
Judge, can I speak to him for just a moment?
Please.
Thank you.
All right, you go answer the phone so you can speak with your attorney. Joel Sanabria.
He's here, President Judge.
All right, Mr. Sanabria is before the court on one charge of loitering or prowling, and I find probable cause.
Judge, it's me, Mr. Sanabria. He wishes to resolve this second-degree misdemeanor.
Your Honor, based on the totality of the circumstances, I don't have an offer at this time.
I'm gonna leave Mr. Sanabria's bond in place at this time. I won't accept a plea offer. Okay? Jean Esperance.
Mr. Esperance, come on up, please. Mr. Esperance? Your name?
All right, Mr. Esperance has 3 misdemeanor capiases. November 7th, a capias was issued where the charge is driving while license suspended, and then there's a temporary tag violation, and then back in August, there's another capias for operating without a valid license. So I find probable cause. He was ROR'd on one of them by the division judge on the tag violation. So he has a total of $200 in bond.
Judge, and speaking of Mr. Esperance, there's nobody that's going to be able to afford to pay his monetary bond. Unfortunately, right now, Mr. Esperance is homeless. However, he is working at this time. He works for a roofing company. He's been there for about 1 year. Now, his girlfriend does work. She works at a local convenience store, but she gets paid next week. So from what he advised me, he's going to be in custody next week until his girlfriend can afford to pay his monetary bond, but he can't afford to lose his job where he's been working for 1 year. Now, he did advise me that he applied at Sheridan Tech to pursue I believe they have a barber, some sort of barber academy or something like that, and he has a test to take, I believe it's next week, in order to see where he's placed. But right now, he doesn't have, he doesn't live anywhere, but he has a mailing address to make sure he gets future court notices, and that would be of his uncle who resides in Sunrise.
Where does his girlfriend live?
She stays in Plantation. Where the our arresting thing happened at.
A what?
Where
I got arrested. Where I got arrested at?
This is on the first case, counts 1 and 2, Your Honor. This is the third capias that Judge Levine has had to issue in
The
this case.
third capias?
Third.
All right, the bonds are gonna remain in place. Samuel Gonzalez Rodriguez.
Mr. Gonzalez Rodriguez, come on up, please.
All right, Mr. Gonzalez Rodriguez is before the court. Charge 1 is driving with a suspended or revoked license. 2 and 3 are misdemeanor capiases. 4 through 8 are traffic capiases. This is with a no bond hold.
Two and 3 are at a drug court. That's why they're set at no bond.
Okay.
I'm just checking to see. I can make it, if the court would accept, and if Mr. Gonzalez Rodriguez is inclined, I can make an offer on 2 and 3, but I'm not able to make an offer on the remaining counts with all the DWLSs.
All right.
Would the state be open to agreeing to a monetary bond of $100 on count 2, $100 bond on count 3?
I'm not going to agree to change a bond that another judge said.
I'm not going to change the bonds because these are, it's not just one. We are talking about 7 capiases here, and then he is before the court on a new charge for a new driving violation. So I'm gonna leave the bonds in place. He has court tomorrow before the drug court division, so he'll be able to address those issues and then see where he goes from there. Gablin Philsamy.
Judge, that's North Broward, and that's a medical reset. I did finish speaking with Mr. Brady on page 6.
All right, so Mr.
we're ready when the
Philsamy
court
is a medical reset. And then we go back to North Broward on Kashif Brady. All right. Are we continuing with the plea?
We're ready to proceed, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Brady, I believe that we were at the place where I was asking you, do you understand that you have the right to go to trial, but by taking a plea today, you are giving up that right?
Okay.
Well, you gotta tell me yes or no. Do you understand?
Yes.
All right.
But no, answer is no.
No, meaning you don't want to go to trial.
Yeah.
Correct.
Well, I'm sorry. I am going to leave the bond in place. I'm not confident that Mr. Brady understands what's going on.
I understand.
Okay?
Mr. Brady, you're going to go see your judge tomorrow, okay?
So I won't be released today?
No,
Not
sir.
today.
Antonio Atterbury?
Mr. Atterbury is here present, Judge?
Mr. Atterbury is before the court. Charge 1 is grand theft. Number 2 is an out-of-county felony hold. And number 3 is an out-of-state felony hold. Yes.
On count 3,
Yes?
can you please put in the case number for the out-of-state, so the clerk's office can create it?
What is that case number?
It should be 2019
Wait, 2019
SU
SU
CR
CR
04
04
73
73
T is in Tom,
TP. Okay. All right. So, all right, so it is as stated, Mr. Atterbury, and looks like you're also going to have to go before the extradition court. I find probable cause, and you have $1,000 bond on one, okay? Timothy West.
No problem.
Okay. Mr. West is before the court. Charge one, committing a first-degree felony with a weapon. Number two is trafficking in methamphetamine, more than 28 grams, less than 200 grams. I find probable cause.
Your Honor, the arresting officer essentially did two charges to amount to essentially what is armed trafficking, Your Honor.
Okay.
And I'm going to be seeking finding a proof evident or presumption great. For first appearance purposes only, request that Mr. West be held no bond for armed trafficking, noting that both the firearm was found directly under the driver's seat where he was sitting, clearly within his reach. The drugs were found in the driver's side door pouch, again, clearly within his reach. Since both objects were within his reach, there is a constructive possession, and I would note that there is a trafficking amount of MDMA that was located and tested.
All right.
Judge, can I have just a moment, please?
Sure.
Oh, I'm sorry, just also noting, Your Honor, based on his statements, he acknowledged knowledge of the firearm, though he claimed it was, he did not have access to it. Clearly, since he was in the driver's seat, he would have had access to it.
Judge, I would ask the court to use your discretion and decline to hold the defendant without bond. From what Mr. West has told me, he's lived here his entire life. He lives in Tamarack with his girlfriend. His parents are also in the area. He's an engineer with Comcast, and he makes $17 an hour. His girlfriend also works. She's a paralegal. I believe he is going to be able, he said he's going to try to raise a bond if one is provided for him for count one. And I would object to the court finding proof evident and holding him without bond.
So, based on the allegations that I have before me, I am going to make that preliminary finding of proof evident presumption great. Mr. West will be held no bond. This is without prejudice for him to have a bond hearing before his division judge.
And Your Honor, the only request I would make, just in case there's any confusion at a later date
Yes.
with a change of charge, if the court could write in indicating, and I believe it would be on count one, if you can make the finding for armed trafficking. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right. Patrick Harris. Mr. Harris is before the court. Charge one is possession with intent to sell, manufacture, or deliver cannabis within 1,000 feet of a school. Number two, possession of cocaine. Number three, trespassing. And I find probable cause for these charges.
Judge, Mr. Harris isn't going to be able to afford $6,025. Right now, he's homeless. He's 52 years old, been living here for over 40 years. He was working waste management, and unfortunately just lost his job, and now he's currently looking for employment. Now, he does have priors, but my understanding that since his release from 2012, he's had no significant contact with the criminal justice system, so he's asking to be released on pretrial release, Judge.
Okay.
Your Honor, the defendant has a prior for his last prior for delivery of cocaine in 2009, and he had 39 months in state penitentiary. as a habitual offender.
This when, 2009?
Yes, Judge.
Okay. All right, where does Mr. Harris live? Did you say?
Judge, from, he's homeless.
I just stay with one of my friends.
However, he did advise me he has friends in our community that he can stay with.
Well, there would have to be, it would have to be a place that he would stay. The only, if, other alternative is, that I am willing to do is to put him on a level 2 pretrial supervision. So that's going to be dependent on verification of his address.
Judge, my understanding is being Mr. Harris, unfortunately, he doesn't have the phone numbers to give to pretrial so that they can contact them, and he says he doesn't have their addresses memorized, so
right.
that's the dilemma we're facing at this time.
Okay, I'm leaving the bonds in place at this time. Eloy Sandoval.
Come on, sir. Mr. Sandoval?
Mr. Sandoval is before the court. Charge 1 is battery on an officer or firefighter. Number 2 is resisting officer with violence. And I find probable cause.
Judge, my understanding is Mr. Sandoval, from what he advised me, this is his first arrest. He's a registered voter here in Broward County. He's been residing here for the past 6 years. He's 25 years old. He's working. He works for a company called American Yacht Maintenance, where he goes ahead and cleans boats in the Tri-County area. He lives with his mother. Judge, we're going to be asking for the court to consider setting a bond $500 on count 1, $500 bond on count 2. And a photo order as well, photographic.
The state is requesting a $2,000 bond on count 1 and a $500 bond on count 2, Your Honor.
Right, $2,000 bond on 1, $500 bond on 2. Paul Acevedo.
Mr. Acevedo is in North Broward, Judge.
All right, Mr. Acevedo, you're before the court this morning. Charge 1 is a petty theft. Number two,
Yep. Yes, Your Honor, but I didn't, I bought that
We're not
cup,
gonna
man.
speak about the facts of the case, Mr. Acevedo.
number two is a violation of felony probation. That has a no bond hold for Judge Yuson, and you have court tomorrow before Judge Yuson. I find probable cause, and you have $100 bond on one. Okay?
I'll call your dad, okay?
Please do, because this
No,
is
no problem. Thank you.
crazy.
Thank you.
All right.
Why would I violate my probation?
Thank you.
Akime Frederick. Mr. Frederick is before the
here with
court.
me.
Charge one is robbery with a weapon. Number two is felony violation of probation. This is before Judge Colra. It is no bond hold on that case, and you will see Judge Colra tomorrow at 8:30 a.m. All right, I find probable cause.
Judge, has a no bond hold. He's 20 years old. From what he advised me, he does hair for a living. He makes about $400 a week. I'm going to be asking $2,500 on count one.
Your Honor, the state is going to be requesting a $15,000 bond on this first-degree felony. As you can see, he's on probation. I don't know if this shows it anywhere in the paperwork. He was placed on 18 months probation 2 weeks before this alleged incident occurred. He also has 2 other thefts from last year.
Okay. It's on probation 2 weeks ago?
No, this happened, this is a non-custody. This allegedly occurred November 14th.
Right.
He was placed on probation October 29th.
Oh, okay. All right, so at this time, I am going to impose a $10,000 bond on charge one. All right. Ramon Chung.
He's approaching, Judge.
Good morning, ma'am.
She's Ramon, Mom. Anne-Marie McAnuff. I'm here as his representative.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
I'm his mom,
Okay,
and I want to speak on his behalf.
okay. All right, hold on just a moment.
Sure.
All right, so you weren't here when we started, so I just wanted to let you know that today's not his trial date. Today's, if you're a witness, today's not the day for that information. And everything you say in this courtroom is being recorded and can be used against you at a later time.
Sure.
All right? Mr. Chung is before the court this morning on one charge of intimidation, writing or sending or threatening to kill or injure. Based on the facts that I have before me this morning, I find probable cause for that charge. All right, I will hear from the state.
Your Honor, I need one moment. I'm just reviewing some relevant documentation.
Okay.
Judge, if I may, my understanding, Mr. Chung, this is his, I believe, first contact with the criminal justice system as an adult. My understanding is he lives with his mother. My understanding, Judge, he is working. He works for a company called U.S. Security, where he's an unarmed security guard. He just got that job approximately 1 month ago. He's making about $10.50 an hour. He's been living his whole entire life here in South Florida. He's 24 years old. He's going to be relying on his mom to help post his monetary bond. I believe she works at Walmart. We're going to be asking for a $1,000 bond on his behalf. I believe I misspoke. He was working. He was living in Lauderhill, where he was renting a room. His share was $550. My understanding, he spoke to his mom, and now he's gonna be moving in and residing with his mother. So that's where he's gonna be staying at this time with his mom.
Okay,
Your Honor, some additional information just came to my attention, Your Honor, that gives me extremely great concern for the safety of the community. I'm going to be requesting, excuse me, a $100,000 bond, no victim contact, pretrial release of the GPS monitor level 1, and no victim contact. Your Honor, these allegations occur in mid-December of this year. Your Honor, in 2018, the city of Sunrise obtained a risk protection order against Ramon Markle Chung. That was in place, it was signed, that was in place until June of this year, when the city of Sunrise went before Judge Gam and sought an extension of the order.
okay.
In granting the extension, Judge Gam checked off the court has received evidence that the respondent engaged in a recent act of threat or violence against themselves or others. The respondent engaged in an act of or threat of violence, including but not limited to acts or threats of violence against themselves within the past 12 months. The respondent may be seriously mentally ill or may have recurring mental health issues. The respondent is the subject of a previous or existing risk protection order, and other relevant evidence was considered. Your Honor, the court should be aware that Judge Gam extended the risk protection order to be in place until June 6th of next year. So as of this time, there is a risk protection order in place. According to the victim in this matter, he's received videos from Mr. Chung threatening to shoot him. The victim stated at on the 15th, he observed what he believed to be a gun sticking out of Mr. Chung's pocket, and then Mr. Chung again threatened to shoot him.
I'm here to tell you that my son is have mental issue and he's under the care of Social Security. He got a check every month over 3 years. My son is not violent or harmful to no one. It's because of his illness. If you push him to the edge, he say things, but he does not do things. And he didn't. He came to my job early this Sunday morning because he want to be calm because I'm in the care of his position and I know how to calm him and take good care of him and I make sure you don't have any problem, no trouble. Was living with me for the whole entire life. I just sell my house on Sunrise and I got a room but not was occupying enough for him to stay with me, so the government pay his month rent and he got a room to this his ability and he do good, he's doing good and he's not harmful to no one. And I'm just telling you that how he is and I calm him down. He spend the lunchtime with me at Walmart to know he wasn't doing anything and he didn't. The guy pushed him over to the edge and that's what happened. Yes, okay, so I'm just here to tell you that my son have his mental issue and he's
So I hear everything that you're saying, ma'am.
yeah.
But, and I've heard that before
Yeah.
from other family members with situations like this. Problem is that you can't be with him 24 hours a day. And so, you know, you're saying that if he comes to your job so that you can calm him down.
No, he was calm when he
You're
come to my
saying
job.
that if somebody pushed him over the edge, there is a problem.
Yeah, he will say,
So-
but he calm down. He's not a threat. He's not a threat.
Well, there is a risk protection order that's in place, so there's something going on there. All right? And so, based on the allegations that I have before me today, and also the information that there's been another judge who's extended a risk protection order that was in place before and then extended it even further, I believe that there's much more that's going on here, and there is cause for concern for the community. And so, Ma'am, I am not going to argue about the situation. I understand that, as his mother, that you have concerns, but as the judge, I also have to have concerns, not only about him, but about the rest of the community, okay? All right, so at this time, I am going to impose a $50,000 bond. If the bond is posted, Mr. Chung will be placed on a level pretrial supervision, which means that he is not going to be able to leave his house. He's going to be on an ankle monitor on a level 1 pretrial supervision. No victim contact, and that means no more videos, no more text messaging, no social media, no third-party contact. Do you understand that, Mr. Chung?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I understand that clearly.
Okay. All right. All right, everyone, thank you. All right.
Your Honor, even though
yes.
it's part of the risk protection order, would the court orders release condition, in this case, no firearms?
Right, and then I'm sure, Mr. Chung, no weapons or firearms. You're not to be, you're not to be in possession of any of those. Okay. All right, Joseph Mash.
Medical.
Mr. Mash is on medical reset. Furman Valadez.
Mr. Valadez, come on up, please. He's here.
Mr. Valadez is before the court on one charge of failing to stop or remain at an accident involving injury. And I find probable cause. Does Mr. Valadez have any priors?
It doesn't look like there is any criminal history. The state would be asking for a $1,000 bond.
Okay. Mr. Romero?
Judge, that's reasonable.
All right. So he has a $1,000 bond. Artilius Affini.
Judge is here.
Judge, before we proceed,
What was that, Mr.?
yeah, Judge, before we proceed on Mr. Affini, I understand that this was,
Over at the main jail, can you please turn the mic off? We're getting
yes.
some feedback. Thank you.
Judge, I understand that this was a reset from the weekend at Mr. Affini's request. This is a direct file matter.
At his request, it was a reset?
Yes, Your Honor. This is a direct filed case that our office conflicted off and Regional Conflict Counsel was appointed to represent him. That posture wouldn't change just based on the filing decision. So he's represented by RCC. I know that they were notified to be here this morning. I can reach out again to see, but he's asking for RCC to appear on his behalf this morning.
If you could do that, I would appreciate it, and then we'll see if we get a response from them, okay? All right, so, I'll recall Mr. Affini's case. We'll see where we are by the time we get to the end of the docket. All right, do we have Takori Brown today?
No problem, John.
All right, Mr. Brown is before the court. Charge 1 is burglary, unoccupied conveyance, unarmed. Number 2, the same charge, burglary, unoccupied conveyance, unarmed. Number 3, criminal mischief, over $1,000. Number 4, criminal mischief. Number 5 and number 6 are violations of felony probation. That judge issued that warrant with no bond hold. It says Judge Bailey. I find probable cause.
Judge, I spoke with Mr. Brown. He's being held no bond on the violations of probation anyway. He's lived here for over 15 years. He lives in Pompano with his cousin and his cousin's girlfriend. He just started working at PDQ as a chef. He also has his mother and siblings in the area. But again, he's being held no bond on the violation of probation.
Okay.
State is asking for a $1,000 bond on counts 1 and 2, Your Honor.
Okay. All right, so I'll impose a $1,000 bond on charges 1 and 2, and the other bonds will remain in place. I don't have any information as to, oh, it looks like, tomorrow. You have court before your division judge tomorrow, okay?
Thank you.
All right. Anthony James,
I had all that other shit on there.
Mr. Anthony James is your present judge.
all right, Mr. James is before the court this morning on one charge, robbery, no firearm or weapon, and I find probable cause.
Judge, I'm speaking with James. First off, he doesn't know as far as anything about this incident. He wanted to know if the court can help shed some light as far as when the alleged date of incident on this incident took place.
November 26th of this year, and this is out of Pompano Beach at Walgreens.
Judge, regardless, he's 38. He's been here his whole life. He is working. He works in roofing.
I do roofing town, we do drywall, we do it all.
Judge, he lives with his wife. That's the person he's going to be relying on to post his monetary bond. From what he advised me is she does hair, and unfortunately, financially, she's not going to be able to afford to post a high bond. So he's asking the court to consider a $2,000 bond on Mr. James.
The robbery, I would not.
Your Honor, the state
Yes.
would be requesting a $10,000 bond. Mr. James's history: felony theft 2018. He violated probation August 28th of this year. Felony theft 2018. He violated the probation, same date in that case as well. Theft and resisting a merchant 2017. Grand theft 2017. Felony theft 2016 VOP. Felony theft 2013. Felony theft 2012. Theft 2012. Felony theft 2010. End of record.
All right, just so that Mr. James understands, he is facing a second-degree felony charge. And these allegations were captured on the store's surveillance in the city of Pompano, that he's jumped over the counter and began taking Newport cigarettes from behind the counter. The victim confronted the suspect. Since he was in an area reserved for employees, the suspect pushed the victim away from him, causing her to fall backwards. He then walked towards the back of the store with the cigarettes, and then they see him. He comes walking swiftly towards the front door with the cigarettes and a Power XL air fryer. The suspect leaves through the front door with the merchandise. The victim was not injured but was in fear for safety for her and her customers. And all of that was retrieved, was captured on store surveillance. All right, and so based on these allegations, this morning, there was a warrant that was issued for your arrest. You were picked up on the warrant. I am going to impose a $10,000 bond. No victim contact and no return to that Walgreens. Anthony Smith,
It's a medical research, Your Honor.
okay?
Medical reset?
Medical?
Yeah, no, I'm sorry.
Anthony Smith,
Yeah, I apologize, Your Honor. He's refusing to attend.
okay?
It's not a medical research.
All right, thank you. And I have notes that he was reset over the weekend as well, even though that. So Mr. Smith does have no bond holds on 2 felony violation of probation.
Judge, who did you call?
Anthony Smith, they're telling me that he's
Northwest.
refused, yeah. Is Mr. Smith represented by the Public Defender's Office?
Sorry, Judge, I was just chatting with Miss Martin.
Sorry. Do we know if yesterday or was actually a medical reset?
No, it was the same situation.
It was the same
If what
situation?
yes, what he's saying is he know he has the no bond hold, so he says he's not gonna come.
All right, Deputy, thank you
I'll go
very
ahead.
much.
Judge,
All right.
You're welcome.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I found him, there he is. Sorry, it's a common name, so
Oh, it's Anthony Lee David Smith.
I don't see a current representation of him,
All
but,
right.
so I don't believe so. But again, my system's a little,
All right, Mr. Smith is refusing, and his basis is because he has no bond holds. I am going to find probable cause in absentia, and I'm also going to set the bond on charge number 1 at $2,500. All right, Jason Campbell.
To your present designee. Good morning, Your Honor.
Mr. Campbell is before the court. Charge 1 is fraud, using or possessing the ID of another without consent. Number 2 is fraud, uttering a false instrument. And number 3 is grand theft. I find probable cause for these charges. And anyone wish to be heard in regards to Mr. Campbell?
Yes, Judge, Mr. Campbell is not going to be able to afford to post the standard bond, which is currently set. We're going to be asking for the court to consider releasing him on pretrial release. I'll see if the state is in agreement before I proceed or has an objection.
The state would have no objection to pretrial, Your Honor. We would ask for no victim contact.
We're fine with your trial.
Okay. They're in agreement, that's reasonable. Hold on, I got to give you the map. Okay. Listen to the judge. Yes, ma'am.
Does the state say he had no priors?
He doesn't have anything local. I don't know if he has anything outside of Broward, Your Honor.
I'm not comfortable releasing him on standard pretrial. He's hired,
If I may.
is hired by someone, he's working for that person. The allegations are now that he tries to use a person's debit card and then tries to cash a check belonging to that person who is over the age of 60.
Judge, my understanding is that this incident wasn't recent, it was a couple months ago. My understanding, Judge, is Mr. Campbell was speaking to law enforcement because he knew that this was gonna be, eventually gonna be arrested on these charges. He actually I believe it was a month ago, checked with law enforcement to see if the KPS or if it was activated so he could go ahead and surrender himself. It wasn't. My understanding is that he was picked up in his driveway. There's a local law enforcement officer that typically patrols his area, and Mr. Campbell was the one that flagged him down, reminded him as far as the prior conversation he had to check to see if there was the NIC, not in custody KPS, that was in the system yet. He was informed after 20 minutes it did hit the system, and then that's when he was taken into custody. So this is a situation in which, one, Mr. Campbell is not a flight risk. He's looking for having his day in court. He's not going to be basically having any failure to appear on these cases. Now, he is the sole provider of his wife and 2 children. He works at U.S. Power and Light. He just got that job. He's been residing in the same apartment in Hallandale for a number of years, and his monthly rent is about $1,000. And without him being able to work, basically his family's going to be homeless. So, Judge, we're asking on this situation, which the state also is agreement, if the court would consider releasing on pretrial release.
Right, I understand the state's in an agreement, but I make the final decision, and I'm not comfortable with that offer. So I'm gonna leave the $3,000 bond in place at this time, no victim contact. That means no phone calls, no text messages, no social media. Daniel Payne,
Mr. Payne is approaching, Judge. Come on up, Mr. Payne. Okay.
Mr. Payne is before the court on one charge of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon without intent to kill. I find probable cause.
Judge, Mr. Payne, he's on disability. My understanding, he lives with his mother. He's 45 years old. From what he advised me, no one's going to be able to afford to post his bond. Judge, we're asking if the court would consider releasing Mr. Payne on level 2 pretrial.
Mr. Payne's criminal history includes possession of PVP 2017, just under 28 months in Florida State Prison. Possession of PVP 2016, same sentence. Fleeing and eluding possession of cocaine 2013, 24-month state prison. 2012, 2 separate possessions of cocaine, another in 2010. 07 DUI, 05 possession of cocaine, 21 months. Multiple other drug priors.
Mr. Payne has a $5,000 bond, no victim contact, no phone calls, no text messages, no social media. Do you understand that, Mr. Payne?
No contact. Do you understand, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. So, Mr. Goldberg, have you been able to get any response?
Yes, I did. Mr. Affini on page 15.
Okay.
Judge, I don't think RCC can attend the hearing today. They're requesting that it just be set in division. I told them that we've got a first appearance hearing, and based on the nature of the charges, I would imagine the state's going to be asking that he be held. Mr. Affini, are you there?
Artilius Affini? So.
And so I think they're
So
just
does-
going to file for an Arthur hearing for him.
Okay. All right.
I don't mean to speak ahead of the state.
No,
I'm looking at the charges and the posture. Yeah.
So, so my question, as on these, when did this incident occur?
looks like, hold on, according to the information.
October.
October 31st.
So is RCC currently,
Here's the situation, Your Honor, my understanding, and let me know if I'm right. This is a direct file, so it went through juvenile. When it went through juvenile, I imagine, I guess there was a co-defendant, or for whatever reason, the public defender's office conflicted off.
okay,
Regional conflict counsel got appointed to represent him while it was a juvenile matter.
okay,
I don't think there's any system in place
to
that
carry.
keeps that going once it goes from juvenile to adult.
right,
There is and there isn't,
Okay.
you know? The conflict remains.
Right.
We've been withdrawn, yeah.
no,
yeah.
no, no,
Now-
I understand, it's
Yeah.
all, you know,
No, I agree. They would have to. It's just technically
Sometimes
speaking,
we have to nudge the system, sometimes the system nudges back.
basically, I'm just saying, the notice of appearance.
Right.
doesn't
all right,
carry-
so here's the thing, Mr. Affini. There still remains a conflict, but when the case was in the juvenile division, you were already assigned an attorney from RCC, which is Conflict Counsel. Now the case has been direct filed, you're now in felony court, you're now in adult court. I suspect that they will still be representing you, even though it could be them or it could be private counsel. So, and so they're not able to come to court today. So we can continue with this hearing at this time, okay? All right. So you are before the court on one charge of attempted felony murder. And number 2 is carjacking. And I find probable cause for these charges. I've read all 9 pages of this affidavit, and so I find probable cause for these charges. I'll hear from the state at this time.
Your Honor, the state would be seeking a finding of proof evident or presumption grade for first appearance purposes only. And ask that Mr. Affini be held no bond. Does Your Honor have a copy of the original affidavit for order to take into custody that Judge Merrigan signed? I have it, it's attached to my paperwork. I figured it would have been attached to yours, but maybe not.
That's Judge McCarthy signing the direct file. I have Judge. No,
If I may approach Your Honor.
sure.
I apologize if I didn't show you that. That might be it
No,
right there.
I do have
Yeah,
it.
there it is. Okay, great.
I do have it. All right, so you were saying, Mr. Linder?
Yes, so Your Honor, relying upon this affidavit that was presented to Judge Merrigan, that was authored by Detective Barbosa of the Broward Sheriff's Office, that's what I'd be relying upon, Your Honor, for.
Oh, okay, okay. All right, so like I said, I've gone through it. I see that there was an interview. I see that there were post-Miranda statements. And so based on the totality of the circumstances, I am going to make a preliminary finding of proof evident presumption grade. And Mr. Affini will be held no bond until such time. This is without prejudice for you to have an Arthur hearing before your division judge. Okay? And also, there is going to be a no victim contact in place. And sir, that means no phone calls, no text messages, no third-party contact. Do you understand that? Okay. No weapons or any firearms, yeah, you know, well, all of that will will be dealt with your division judge. But for the most important at this point in time is no victim contact, okay? All right, so that's it.
Judge, I have a defendant that was not on the docket, but I just need a photo order for
Okay,
Christopher Good, 19-14698 CF.
all right, I'll send that photo order.
Thank you.
All right, everyone, thank you, and I will see everyone this afternoon at 1 p.m.